by actually jumping into doing something I was fearful of doing, I was kind of overcoming that fear. And as I saw kids, I would see kids get that same look in their eye that I would get when I got frustrated with something, or when you see the tears starting to well up. And I'd be like, no, 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 it's okay. It's okay. I understand how you're feeling.
Today we have a special guest, Jody Mackowiak, joining us. Welcome, Jody.
Good morning.
I'm going to share a little bit about Jody before we get started with our interview. But first of all, Jody and I met at rowing. We're on the rowing team together in Annapolis, Maryland. And I clicked with her right away, and she shared her story with me, which is so inspiring. And we'll get into it during the interview, but she just has this very positive outlook despite the challenges that life has thrown her way. So I asked her to be a guest on this interview today because I was just so moved by her story and the kind of person she is and her positive outlook despite everything she's been through. So I know her personally, and I'm so excited to have her here with us. So, a little bit more background about Jody. She is recently divorced and mother of 24-year-old twins who've launched into their lives and have professional careers of their own now. She's a fourth grade
Yay.
math teacher. Yay! She's a fourth grade math teacher, is currently dating a kind man, learning Italian, learning to row on a crew team, and practicing shooting with her handgun. Life is moving in a positive direction, and she's ready to focus on herself now.
Yes.
Oh, God, I love it. I get so many chills just even reading that out loud, and I can feel your celebration around your twins
Yeah.
being off in the world and being adults. How does that feel?
It goes by in a blip. And everybody tells you that, but until you've lived it, until you've watched them go from needing to hold your hand to now launched out in life, they're professionals, they have careers, they have lives, and they're functioning as the adults you hoped they would be when you were spending all that time with them and plugging so much effort into them. I mean, it's absolutely incredible. So it's something that it's kind of like your first parenting finish line. Next step is they get married, and then they're completely on their own. So, I guess high school, college, out on their own, and then getting married, the kind of parenting finish line. So, I kind of feel like they've reached that first one.
That's amazing. I feel like I'm at the beginning of mine because my daughter's starting middle school in the fall. So
Oh gosh, middle school. Let me tell you, seventh grade is the worst.
I remember it was pretty bad for me too.
Seventh grade is the worst. Sixth grade's great, eighth grade's great, seventh grade, look out.
It's a rough
It
time.
is. It
Yeah.
is.
And I would love to hear more about how did you get into your profession of teaching math? And this was something that first stood out when you talked about your profession.
Mhm.
Because I'm a former teacher as well. And the way you spoke about it was with such love and was so inspiring. And I'd love for you to talk a little bit about that path to decide to be a math teacher and that journey a little bit.
Oh my gosh. So the journey to math teacher is actually pretty funny because as a child, I struggled with math. It made me cry. I remember one year in eighth grade, my parents and I celebrated me getting a D in math because they said if I didn't pass math, I wouldn't go on to ninth grade. So it was terrifying for me to even work with math. I was inspired to become a teacher by several teachers. That's what happens, right? My third grade teacher, Mrs. Hull, my fifth grade teacher, Mrs. Manavar, my eighth grade teacher, Mr. Buzzkowski. We remember the names of the teachers who were impactful. And when I became a teacher, I got hired to teach sixth grade in Prince George's County. And here I was, 24 years old, only twice the age of the kids who were going to be in my classroom, right? They're 12. I was 24. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, they're going to know more than I am. And at that point, I was self-contained, so I had to teach everything, and it was an elementary school. And I started to realize as I was teaching math that by teaching it, I was kind of overcoming my fear of it. And in college, I had a tutor, and I remember my tutor saying to me, "Jody, you're not as bad as this as you think you are." So by actually jumping into doing something I was fearful of doing, I was kind of overcoming that fear. And as I saw kids, I would see kids get that same look in their eye that I would get when I got frustrated with something, or when you see the tears starting to well up, and I would be like, "No, no, no, it's okay. It's okay. I understand how you're feeling. Let's get through this together."
Mm.
And so, no, being able to understand how a child feels about something like that gives you more compassion, more understanding, and it made me a better math teacher. It made me a better teacher. I taught everything at that point, and then I got to the point where all I wanted to do was teach math because I have such a love and passion for it now that I want children to never, ever have that same fear that I had. It was just a side story. In high school, 10th grade, I had a math teacher. I'm going to leave her name out. And I remember raising my hand and I had a question. And she called on me. She said, "Jody, what do you need?" I said, "I don't understand that." She said, "What?" I said, "That."
Yeah.
I don't get it. And she looked at me and she said, "Well, then you must not be college material and you need to be weeded out." And I went home and I was devastated. And I told my parents, and my father was like, "Are you kidding me? Your teacher said that to you?" I was like, "Yes." And I know him. And I had a tutor and I was getting by. So my dad made a appointment with the principal. And of course, I was mortified, right? 10th grade, you do not want to be dragged into the principal's office with your dad. So we're sitting in the principal's office, and my dad looks at the principal and he said, "Here's what teacher said to my daughter." And he reached into his briefcase and he pulled out a picture. And it was a framed picture that I kept on my nightstand. And it was me with a girl that I had been coaching in swimming because I was a swimmer in high school and college. And I had my arm around her, and she was in her wheelchair, and she had her Special Olympics medal, and she was holding it. And she went to that high school. And my dad looked at the vice principal or principal and said, "Mr. So and so," he said, "Do you think this picture in this moment would exist if my daughter had said to the young lady she's coaching, 'You know what? You really shouldn't be swimming. Your legs don't work, so you're not swimming material.'" And of course, I started to cry. And the vice principal looked at my dad and said, "Mr. Lennon, we'll take care of this."
That's a moment that none of you will ever forget. That is,
Never.
and for you, such bravery to, first of all, at that age, to go and tell your dad about it. I feel like that alone, because at that age, we usually are like, "Oh, I got this," or "I'm just gonna ignore
Mhm.
this." But and it also speaks volumes about your father and the role that he plays. I don't know if he's still
Oh,
with,
yes, yes, he still is.
and the role that he plays in your life, like, wow, like what a
Mhm,
gift of that form of seeing you for who you are and your potential. And to choose math after struggling with it so much as a child is, it makes perfect sense because we relate more
mhm.
to those who also went through the challenges that we went through. And once we've conquered that fear of really being that sympathetic person, you can empathetic, you can just feel their pain, and that makes
Oh,
perfect sense why you love
absolutely.
doing this.
Yeah, and that's why as a teacher, I can't wait to go back to school. You should see I have a pile over here next to me
You're making me wanna go back to teaching. I'm like,
of all the things I have over here. I've got things cut out. I've got things last night. It was 2 AM and I'm still cutting out name tags, and I was up at school yesterday. I was actually up at school yesterday with my daughter who's going to be teaching in the same school as I am this year. She'll be teaching
Oh.
second grade math. I'll be teaching fourth grade math. And we were up there yesterday, and my principal's like, "How's it going?" I'm like, "Boss, I'm ready." I said, "I could come back tomorrow." I said, "I am so ready for school to start. I can't wait to meet my people. I can't get wait to get my hands on my tiny humans and just have a great time." So it's my happy place. It really is. Nurturing those minds and getting them to, and especially my girls. I know that doesn't sound good, but I want girls who love math and
Yes.
girls who love science, and science and math are like best friends. And I talk about math as if it's a person in my classroom. So the kids over the course of the year, they'll do these little drawings of what they think math looks like. So as I talk about math, I'm like, "Yeah, Math and I were hanging out at home. We were figuring out what our grocery list was going to be." And Math like, "Do you have enough money for that?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I got money for that." And so I talk about math like it's a person, but
Wow.
the kids come up with these cartoon images in their minds, and it brings the subject to life for them.
Mm.
And when my girls are hitting the math hard, I'm like, girls rock, girls with math. I love it. And I'm like, because you know what? You can do this. I'm like, we all can do it. We just need it's a growth mindset, just like with us in our rowing. Who starts rowing in their mid 50s, right? We do.
Yes.
We do. Because there's got to be continuous growth.
I think that the group of women who row are badass women. I look around at the women there and I was like thinking, I wonder, because I heard your story. I haven't heard anyone else's story yet from our boat. And I'm thinking,
Mhm.
what are the stories on this boat? And I believe in the universe bringing us together for a reason. And we're in the
Absolutely.
same like group together. We're growing. We've been through similar challenges. And when you stop and ask people their story, it's like, oh wow. But I look at these women, I'm like, we are strong, badass women carrying our boat.
I know that thing's weighing down on your shoulder. You're like,
Yes.
I'm like, this is a part of that evolution that if you don't continue to evolve and can you continue to reinvent yourself after going through a horrible situation, after living through something that broke you down, you have to go back and find yourself. And finding yourself can involve so many different things. I mean, either you can go down that spiral and continue to go down with it, or you can say, you know what? You put your muckluckers on, you pull those pants up, and you start wading through all the crap, and you can come out on the other side. Above my door, I don't know if you can see it, but above my door, I have the sign up there. It says, "Life is all about how you handle Plan B."
Mm.
Plan B. I mean, I didn't have a plan B, but I found it,
Yeah. There's
you
always a
know?
plan B, right? There's always another way.
There's always another way. Going back into my career, I got my master's just 2 years ago. So I went back and got my master's degree 2 years ago. I went back to teaching 5 years ago after a 17-year hiatus. I didn't think I could do that. I didn't think they'd even take me back.
So in those 17 years, were you home with the kids and married? And tell us a little
I
bit.
was I was married, raising the kids, but I was never really too far away from my job, whether it was teaching Sunday school at church or whether it was I supervise student teachers at University of Maryland. We go out and help them during their senior year, whether it was teaching swim lessons or tutoring. Definitely was an innate part of me that was a teacher. And I think my daughter, I kind of think that teaching is almost genetic because there are people in my family in the past who were pastors and high school teachers and speakers. So I do feel that part of that is ingrained in you. But I was home with the kids, raising the kids. And as my marriage was falling apart, probably from the time they were 9 years old, I continued to see, and I had to fill a need for our family. I had to play the role of mother and father. I had to help support with income. And I chose not to divorce because he was the kind of person that I knew I wouldn't feel comfortable sharing them with 50% of the time. And
That's
I thought, do I want this person having 50% influence over who they turn out to be?
That's hard. That's really
It
hard because if you're in that position of they will be alone with this person, can I trust them? And if the answer is no, then again, I applaud you for your bravery. And because that's a brave choice to make and to like go through the trenches because of knowing that it would not be the best option for your children.
Yeah. Julie, it was interesting for me because as I look back on that time and as I look back on pictures and things like that, I look back on that me and I see the forced smile and
Mm.
I see the woman who was powering through. And now I see the woman who is living my life, who is able to support my children as adults. And they were able to watch the marriage unfold or unravel, really, and make their own decisions about what part each parent played in it.
Yeah.
And last year, I got a Mother's Day and a Father's Day card from my daughter. And in it, one thing she said to me, she said, and she hand wrote it, and I keep it at my desk at school. And she said, I know it was hard. She said, being a mom and a dad. She said, and you don't have to be a man to be a dad. She said, "Thank you for playing a role that was meant for two." I know. So it took a lot of strength. There were a lot of tears. I'm not going to say that I didn't cry a lot, that I didn't wonder where my life was going to come out, wonder where my dad used to say to me, "Jody, what are you going to do?" I'm like, "I don't know." I said, "But I've got to get these kids through where they need to be because I can't turn them." He didn't beat us, he didn't drink, he just didn't support us and was not present with us. So I said to my dad, I said, "If I divorce him, the courts are going to say, here's 50% of the time with them." And I couldn't do it. So it wasn't until 2 years ago that my daughter walked in on him in our home with a woman only 6 years older than her in the master bedroom of our house. And at that time, she was 22, getting ready to launch. My son was too. And I remember her calling me and telling me after it had happened. And I was so calm, and
Wow.
she was hysterical, and I said to her, "You know what?" I said, "Get your things." I was in South Carolina with her brother, she was heading down there with me to join us with her boyfriend, and I said, "Pack your things, go to your grandparents' house, get someplace safe and private," and I said, "I'll start looking for a lawyer." I said, "This is how we are all going to end this part of our life and begin the next part, and the kids are better off, I'm better off, and we've all kind of I'd say we're still recovering. Does my daughter talk to a therapist? Yeah. Do I talk to a therapist? Yeah. But to be able to step away from a situation like that, you have to regroup somehow. You have to say, okay, that's who I was surviving in a situation like that. Who am I going to be now? I'm not a mom anymore. I'm not a wife anymore. Who am I?
Mm. And that's the play that you're in now, the different things that you're learning and this new relationship and deciding how you want to be in the world. And when I see you, I just see such strength. And I actually see an actual aura around you, which is pretty cool.
Aw, thanks.
There's an angelic frame around you, like, I saw it as you were speaking. I just witnessed such prophet comes to mind, also speaker and guide for others, and you have this ability to remain calm in the storm, which is such a powerful sign of a warrior and someone who has been through a lot and still comes out on top and is just this like beacon of light. And meeting you, like, I wouldn't know that happened. I just see such a focused, disciplined, like, I row behind you usually and I follow you and I'm like in sync with you. And it's a very energetic practice rowing. It's synchronized and it's like you're in the flow
It's
and you're,
teamwork.
yes, total teamwork. And if one person's off, it throws off the whole boat, right?
That was my marriage. One person was off, and it was throwing off the rest of the boat. But I
Yeah.
will tell you, Julie, I mean, yes, my father raised me as a strong woman. He raised my sister as a strong woman. We are strong women. Do I like being a strong woman? Yes. Are there times I would not want to have to be a strong woman? Yes. But we don't get to where we are without those challenges. And I tell my students all the time, they're only fourth graders, but I also feel like I'm not just their math teacher, I'm their life teacher.
Hell yeah.
And I know they have parents at home. I know, but you know what? I am not going to teach them anything about life that I wouldn't have wanted my own children to know. And I constantly tell my students, you can't control what happens to you in life. You can only control how you react to what happens to you in life. Down to they took the jump rope from me at recess, or I got a bad grade on my paper, or I got in a fight with my mom before school. Okay, how are we going to react to that? Because I will tell you this, I did not always, I may look like I have my crap together now, and I do, and I'm glad. But I remember the day that I found out that both our homes were in foreclosure. The kids were off at school, and I was laying on my kitchen floor, curled up in the fetal position, with the papers on the floor around me, sobbing. And it just so happened my dad came over and he walked in the house and found me there. And I was just
Wow.
I was wiped. Both homes in foreclosure, 2 kids in middle school.
Oof.
Now what? So,
This is when you were still
again,
married and you just didn't
still
know.
married,
Y
and I didn't know, and he was in charge of all the finances, I was in charge of the kids, taking care of the home, kinda traditional roles, and Julie, I can't even tell you how many other situations were like that, but the thing remains, okay, my dad was like, "Come on, Jody, get up off the floor. How are we gonna handle this, and what are you gonna do?" And again, it took 3 months of calls to the IRS, calls to the mortgage company, but it made me stronger. I couldn't control what was happening to me at that moment, but how could I react? Strength, perseverance, grit, determination. And now I've taught my children how to do that. And when you go through those horrible storms in your life, you take out skills on the other side. Sailors on a boat going through a storm, what are they doing? They're sails and hoisting things and buckling things down. And once you come out on the other side, you're like, oh, I know how to react to that situation. So the sad part about getting old is you're getting old, but the good part about it is, like my father, you get that sage wisdom, you get the life experiences that you can hopefully pass on to other people. And they can look at you and say, "You did that. I
mm.
can do that." Model positivity, model strength, model courage, model building other people up.
Yeah, and I also think it's releasing shame around going through these things and
Yeah.
knowing, like you said, we're all going to face storms. And I believe that shame happens when we feel like we can't share. We have to keep it to ourselves. If people knew this about me, what would they think? Or would I find another partner or any of those things? And what I see in you is the opposite of that in speaking and sharing and owning truth rather than
Yeah.
hiding.
Yeah, absolutely.
Are you ready to break through to the next level of success in your business? If so, you'll want to check out our Abundance Breakthrough Retreat. You can expect to leave our retreat with a supported belief system, knowing that you can enjoy a life of absolute freedom and abundance, a more clear understanding of your divine mission and path of purpose, a 90-day action plan to meet your specific business goals, and a supportive community that will cheer you on every step of the way. Following our retreat, we'll have the opportunity to join our Free to Fly program to receive ongoing business, mindset, and personal life support. Check out what Kay had to say about our retreat. Julie knows how to get to the heart of what's getting in your way using deep intuitive guidance. She has helped me tell my clients the truth about how they bring their magic and must do the work to see the results. Julie's approach is fun, direct, and a noble style that brings intuitive coaching to a whole new level. Since participating in our Abundance Breakthrough program last year, my business income increased last year by 67%. Thank you, Julie. Kay Lowfrey, licensed nutritionist. To learn more, go to juliegetzinger.com or set up a complimentary call with her by going to the link below.
I stay in contact with so many of my former students, and I remember I was pretty open about going through my divorce. Now, I would not publicly share the details behind it as I was going through it, but I'm not one of those fake book people. I have Facebook. I post my life. It's friends, it's neighbors, it's family. So, I'm not going to just post the good stuff. And as I was going through my divorce, I was posting some of the nitty-gritty. And up on my Facebook Messenger pops up former student. And now she's 38, but she messaged me and she said, "I've been watching you go through this. Can we go get dinner?
Mm.
Because I'm going through it. And I just want to hear a little bit more." And we sat there for 3 hours and we laughed and we cried. And then after we talked about that and she got through her divorce, she messaged me again. She's like, "Okay, what's dating like?" And I was like,
It's a
"Oh,
whole
girl,
winter.
that's a whole different ball of wax because you a young little cute little chippy and you got lots of years ahead of you. Dating in your mid 50s is a completely different ball of wax." I'm like, "So don't even ask me. Just go about being your pretty young self, and that's going to happen for you." I was like, I'm not even talking to you about that." I said, "I'll talk to you about the divorce, but I'm going to tell you, it's a certain kind of show out there for dating in your
It's
50s.
like a reality
Good
TV
God.
show.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. I would have been more than happy to wear a hidden camera on my dates. Sometimes they handed in a handshake. Sometimes it was like a high five. Sometimes it was like a thumbs up. Hey, thanks for the date. Catch you later. But it's just, I'm telling you, all those things though, Julie, even the dating kind of makes you reflect on who you are, what you want for your life. Do you want someone else moving forward in your life? How are they going to be involved in your life? And doesn't it all boil down to what are you willing to settle for?
Oh,
What are you willing to settle for?
what do
Mediocrity?
you, and I will,
Greatness?
the question I'm hearing is, what do you think you're worthy of? How much are you worthy of? How much do you believe you're worthy of? Because that's what we will accept.
True. And after so many years of not receiving the love, the compassion, the tenderness, the care, the protection, what will I take now? I settled for less. I am not worth less.
Mm. Oh, that's good. I settled for less. I am not worth less. Wow. So it was a
No.
choice to settle for less, but it never changed your worth.
Right. I mean, that's why the taking the Italian, expand the brain, learning to shoot a handgun. Oh my God, what a thrill going to the range, dating someone who is my friend, who appreciates me, who likes me. My spouse was never my friend, but I settled. So now I don't have to settle. I'm out there, I'm making choices. And I think as women, and especially, oh my gosh, I don't know if you've seen it, but I saw the Barbie movie yesterday with my daughter. Holy smokes. The monologue in there about being a woman and how we are as women today and what's expected of us and how we react to how we're treated. I was sitting there in tears crying. My daughter, 24 years old, sitting next to me crying. The woman next to her sobbing. And she's pulling out tissues and passing them down to me and my daughter. And I thought, oh my gosh, it's in here and it's in here. And if we embrace ourselves and if we embrace our capabilities, our career, our children, our interests, we can become who we want to be. I mean, it's limitless. And I always thought I was limited by something. I don't know why. My father never taught me that. My father was like, go get them. You can do it. When I was little, I used to say, Jay can do because we can. But what stops us is fear, obstacles that we think are there that aren't there. And that's what led me to the rowing too. What can I do to get out there, to meet other people, to enjoy the surroundings that the area that I live in, to challenge me physically and mentally to do something new?
The way I see it is leaving it all on the water. I see it as such a
It's
healing
great.
practice. And when I look out when the sun is setting, I'm like, wow,
Isn't that wonderful?
it's
I
stunning.
rem Yeah. One day I had spent 4 hours right before rowing. I had spent 4 hours on the phone with the IRS because even though I'm divorced, there's still cleanup. And I thought, "Oh, I'm divorced, it's gonna go away." No, there's still cleanup. And it was a rowing day. And I thought, "Oh, please let the weather be good because I need to get out there and I need to leave it out there." So I could get out there and just let it go, like you said. Listen to the water, hear the splashing on the oars, find the rhythm in the rowing, see the beauty around you, and just let it go. Because I can't control what's happening to me. I can only control how I react to what's happening to me.
It's interesting. The first day that we had the learn to row practice, I was in overworking mode and overexerting, over pushing myself. And I went to rowing in that state. And I remember like being annoyed and like, when are we just going to get on the water? This is a waste of time. My mind
Mm,
is saying all these stories. Like, I can't believe I'm here for hours. It took me an hour and a half to get, I was like complaining in my mind the whole time. And then the next day we got on the water and it was all gone, and it was this
mhm,
peace. And I was just like, oh, this is the feeling. This is why I'm here. And
mhm.
I think we're there to learn a skill, a craft. We are, but it is so, it just becomes a part of you. It just feels, it's an emotion. It's just a, like learning an instrument is how it feels. Like once you know how to do it, you just move. And it's so mindful to me. And what's interesting, when I heard in my mind just now, leave it all in the water, that's what they say about yoga. Leave it all on the mat.
The mat.
Right.
Mhm.
So the water is our mat.
Yeah. My father, I went over, and it's funny. I firmly believe in doing when the spirit moves you to do something, do it.
We do it.
So last weekend after rowing, I was like, I'll pop over to my parents' house. So I go over there and there's my dad, 84 years old, out in the front yard with a chainsaw going after some stuff. And I'm like, oh my gosh, Dad, what are you doing? So I get out there with him and we're doing it together. And then we're sitting down having some coffee on the front porch. And I started talking about the rowing. And my dad picked up windsurfing in his 40s and did it until his 70s. And he said, now you know why I loved that so much. He said, because I got out there and it was just me. We teach that in literature, don't we? Man versus himself, man versus nature, man versus the world or something. I don't know. But when you find that one thing that connects you to yourself and to being able to be out there and to think and to do. And he said, I'd launched that windsurfing board and he said, and there it goes. Phew, the wind would get in the sail and off I'd go.
Mm.
And I'm like, yep, I get into that boat. We start getting into that pace and off we go. And I think if everybody could find something, whether it's knitting, rowing, painting, when you get into that thing that lets you let go. The
Another
man I'm
great
dating right now,
Yeah, I
same
realized
thing.
about rowing too is like for me, it's like I'm not alone because being a
Mm-mm.
part of a boat like that, like if I'm feeling sad, feeling lonely, whatever, just being in the boat is like I am so not alone. And all these people are here with me, working together with me. We have this
Right.
common goal.
Yep.
It
So
feels
I think that finding that thing for yourself, and I even think even outside of your career, because you throw yourself into your job and that's all you identify with, then I don't think that's entirely healthy. I think finding something else, like the man I'm dating right now, bought a Harley. He had never ridden a motorcycle. He's out there every day now practicing. We go on rides together, but he's found something like the rowing, right? You find something that you can connect with that gives you satisfaction, that gives you hope, that challenges you mentally, physically, it gives you community. I mean, I know women who sit and knit together. My mother is part of a rug hooking guild. They all sit around and make rugs together. I mean, but it's community.
community. Yeah, that's so beautiful. Wow,
Yeah,
there's so much in this, in your story, in your wisdom that I'm learning and growing from just listening to you. And I'm so glad that we met and that we
I
get
am too.
together and develop our friendship further. And any last words of wisdom for people who maybe they're going through a hard time right now, whether divorce or something with finding out they're going through foreclosure? What would you say to that person? What could you, words of wisdom to let them know that it's going to be okay?
It's always going to be okay. And you have to tap into friendships. If you have a faith, you tap into your faith, family, connectedness. You can't be an island. Yes, you can power through, and God knows I powered through. But I also had people who came alongside me along the way. And I think not being ashamed of what you're going through because everybody's carrying a bag. Everybody has a bag of crap. It's just how well do we disguise it? Where do we put it? How do we hide it? And I think being able to share what you're going through is so important. I mean, yes, I was going through a divorce and I was still at work and I was the happiest teacher in that building. And I remember a mom came up to me and she said, my daughter loves you. She said, I'm so happy to meet you. She said, when my daughter told me that you were going through a divorce, because I said to my kids, I said, listen, I'm going to let you know there are going to be days I'm not going to be here because I'm going through a divorce with my husband. I might have to have meetings and things like that. But just know I'm going to be here. I will be back tomorrow because the kids didn't like it when I was gone. And the mother came up to me and said, how can you possibly going through a divorce? She said, you're one of the most cheerful, happy, positive people I've ever met. And I said, because I know there's the other side. It's going to end. It's going to end. And don't you know that woman got in touch with me the next school year and said, I'm going through a divorce.
Mm.
Can you help me? I said, absolutely. I will walk beside you. So by being real with people and letting them know, letting my 9-year-olds know, hey, listen, I'm going through something right now, but it is not going to affect my interactions with you. I then got the support of the parents and then was able to turn it over and help somebody else.
And you're also teaching the power of being like ourselves, like being authentic, like being real. And that's how relationships are built. They're not built on surface. They're not built on just having a persona. They're built on being real. And you modeled that for your students and the parents and your own children, all of it. And I think that's
Yeah.
something that's so noteworthy is the power of just being honest. This is where I'm at. And it's okay not to be okay.
Mhm.
It's okay not to be okay.
Yes, absolutely. So that's what I would tell people. Be honest. My goodness, don't let it all hang out, right? Because that's not pretty either. But finding the people you can confide in and building a, like I said to my friends and my family and everybody afterwards, I said, I felt like I had a scaffold
Mm.
around me because it was a structure supporting me. And when you put those scaffolds in place, then you can go about your life and still be positive and still find happiness. And still, I'm not saying that I didn't have crappy moments, but the good can outweigh the bad. You always come out on the other side. It's just, how do you choose to come out on the other side? How you
Oh,
going to handle plan B?
exactly. Thank
Yeah.
you so much for being here and doing this with us and sharing your story. I am so happy that we get to stay connected and I will put
Yeah.
yes, I will put a link to stay in touch with Jody in the show notes below if you feel inspired by her. I'm sure you do. And you maybe are going through divorce or you just want to see somebody on the other side living a life of joy and passion and play. Follow Jody, let her inspire you. So thank you, Jody. Thank you so much for being
Yes.
here.
Yeah. Thank you. And I'll see you on the water on Thursday.
Yep, see you on the water.
All right. Thanks so much, Julie.
Thank you. I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did enjoy it, please consider liking it. And if you haven't subscribed to our channel yet, go ahead and do that now. If you know of anybody else who could benefit from watching this video, share it with them too. And thanks for being here. I hope to see you soon. Bye.